I think I gave it to you.
Okay, here we go. Okay, you guys, welcome back. Today is September 6th, and I think this is session number 11 or so. Is that right?
I don't know.
I don't know the numbers, but
Yeah. Okay. We'll start off as usual with the invocation, student teacher, togetherness, oneness chant, and then we'll go into the Patanjali invocation. If you know it, you may chant along. Sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi abahu purushakaram shankachakra siddharinam sahasra shirasham shvetam pranamami patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Om. Okay, thank you much. What sutra did we leave off on?
45.
245?
Yes.
Okay, 245 sounds like right before the asana section. So chapter 2, Sutra 45. I need my readers. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. 45, chapter 2. This is the third time that Patanjali mentions the word Ishvara. What is Ishvara? What is Ishvara? Ishvara. Ishvara.
I think of it as the spiritual being of oneness.
Yeah, Ishvara is the Lord. Ishvara is the Lord. So some people say Ishvara is God. Some people say the Lord. Patanjali in the first chapter describes or defines Ishvara. I think it was first chapter 26 sutra. No, 24th. No, 23rd he says Ishvara Pranidhanadva. Then he says the 24th sutra he defines what is Ishvara. Ishvara is a unique consciousness, a Visesha Purusha, who is untouched by pain, activity, resulting experiences, and remaining unripe actions. So Ishvara is a Purusha, a consciousness, a soul entity, but it's not the individual soul entity as you and I. It's a special soul entity, a special one, Visesha Purusha. So here's the third time he mentions Ishvara. The first time he mentions it in the 23rd sutra of the first chapter. Then he mentions it again previously in the yamas and niyamas. Was it in the niyamas? It was the fourth niyama. He says Ishvara Pranida Nat Ishvara Pranida Nani. And then here's the third time he mentions it in the 45th sutra. He says Samadhi Siddhi, or the power, the perfection of total concentration, Samadhi. Ishvara Pranidhanat. So in other words, that the total concentration or Samadhi is attained by surrendering the results of all the actions to Ishvara. This is, again, he's reiterating. This is interesting because normally they don't repeat things in the sutras, but this is repeated the third time. But here he's saying that Samadhi can be attained by surrendering all your actions to the Lord. So this is similar to the first chapter. The first time he mentions it. The second time he mentions it, he doesn't say it's going to give you Samadhi. He says it prepares you for Samadhi. Here he says that total concentration is attained by surrendering the results of all your actions to Ishvara. Previously, he didn't say surrendering all the actions. He just said surrendering to. Here he's saying surrendering the fruits. Then you will accomplish Samadhi. This is. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ricky. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The parenthetical of all right actions. I wondered if in the notes or if you guys talked about why that was called out as right action instead of just all action.
Right. So right action is called dharmic activities, and adharmic activities are not right actions. I don't think they've mentioned that at this point. Have they mentioned dharma and adharma yet? I don't think they mentioned it in this text actually. We'll see if they do. I don't remember them mentioning dharma and adharma. It's a concept. Dharma, Dharma, dharma. You guys heard this word before? Yeah, dharmic activities are activities that are quote unquote right, that are in alignment with the greater good, and lead you towards higher realizations. Whereas adharmic would be evil or not right actions, like the opposite of the niyamas and yamas, mostly the yamas, like hurting others, being untruthful, stealing, taking what's not yours, sexual promiscuity, and hoarding. Those are the yamas. Those are the opposite of the yamas. Right. So, right. Okay. So that's the conclusion of that particular section. The 46th sutra is Stira Sukham Asanam. Stira. It's a very important sutra for students and yoga teachers because we focus so much on the asanas. These 3 sutras are pretty important because they're not mentioned in other texts. This idea that postures should be steady and comfortable are not really mentioned. They just mention postures. Like if you go to Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it tells you how to do a posture, but it doesn't tell you that it shouldn't hurt. It says put your right, for example, Padmasana, it says put your right foot on top of your left thigh, put your left foot on top of your right thigh, and then you have Padmasana. Now, when I started yoga, if someone told me to put my right foot on my left thigh and then followed by the left foot on top of the right thigh, I would probably tear my knees, you know? So it really takes a teacher, right, to teach us asanas. But here this first sutra, the 46th sutra, is important because it gives you the parameters of asana practice. There are 2 parameters. The first parameter is stira. Stira. Stira means steadiness. A yoga posture is steady. So if you go to a class where there's never any stillness, that's not a yoga class. That is an exercise class that uses yoga postures. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
If there's no stillness in your postures, you have not achieved the state of yoga posture yet, or asana. It just looks like asanas. And then if there's no sukham, so this is an interesting one. Sukha means comfort, but we know that when we're new to yoga postures are anything but comfortable. So the idea is that the theory is that whenever you've mastered a posture, you've reached a level of comfort within that posture. But as you're learning the posture, there's definitely not any steadiness and there's not any comfort, right? I like to say getting there is not the hard part, staying there is the hard part. So someone can bounce their bodies into a forward bend and touch their toes, but if they try to hold it, their body pulls back, you know?
Mhm.
So again, when you practice long enough, you'll achieve stira sukham asana, the steadiness and comfort. So comfort, the word sukha, it comes from the word sukha. Sukha comes from the word su and ka. Su means agreeable, and ka comes from the word akash. Akash means space, mental space. Su means agreeable, and akash means mental space. So sukha, some people will translate, I've heard of people translating sukha as sweet. Sukha does not mean sweet. It means agreeable space. Some people say it means joy or pleasant. Sukha means pleasant. Yeah, I mean pleasant. It can you can. I would agree with pleasant, but because anything that's pleasant will be agreeable, right?
Mhm.
Pleasant would be agreeable, but joy, I guess joy be agreeable too. But here's the thing, it really comes down to this. If I can be in a yoga pose and be in a state of discomfort, but I can still be agreeable. So how does that translate then? It's not comfortable, but I can stay in the pose. Then I'm in a state of sukham because I'm not disagreeing. If I disagree, then I want to come out of the pose immediately, right? But if you stay long enough, then the longevity, the longer you can stay in the pose in an agreeable space. For example, people who learn to do seated pranayama from the beginning, or in the beginning of their practice, when they say they do a year or 2 of yoga postures, they don't really focus on opening their hips properly. They're doing it more for core or tight butt or whatever. And then they sit down to do pranayama. After 15 minutes, they got to switch their legs. They keep doing pranayama. 30 minutes into it, they can't even sit and meditate anymore because their bodies there's such discomfort or pain that they don't want to be in the pose. But maybe the first 30 minutes they can handle it, right? So the first 30 minutes would be sukha, and then after that they don't want to stay in the pose anymore. They want to lay down. Their back hurts, or they're constantly shifting their legs, crisscross this way, then crisscross that way. They keep changing because it's they can't agree with staying in the position. That becomes dukkam. Dukkam means disagreeable space, or it's sometimes translated as suffering or pain. But anyway, so sukham you'll see is translated many different ways, but I think the most accurate way would be to say it's agreeable mental space. The word asana, asa means to place or to place something. Asa means to place something. Asana means to place your body, to place your body. So it's translated as posture. You're placing your body in a certain way. But it's interesting though, because the word asan or asana, asan in Hindi means seat or sit. So asana also means a seated position. A seated position. Asana also means like a seat, like you take a seat, like a chair, not necessarily a chair, but like a rug. And if you go to India, I've never been, but my teacher talks about it. If you go to someone's house, then they'll offer you a rug to sit on. They'll offer you an asan, and the asan refers to that little rug, or like because Indians can sit on the floor without any padding, they get a rug. Americans, we get meditation cushions. Those are our asanas, right? So you go to a house where they don't have furniture, they'll probably give you a meditation cushion. So here at the first sutra of asanas, remember there are 3. The first sutra, Sthira Sukham Asanam, is the theory of asanas. The theory of asanas. So it's not necessarily the practice. The next sutra, 47, is the sutra on the practice of asanas. The practice of asanas. So what does he say? He says prayatna. Prayatna means effort. Shaitilya. Shaitilya means to make subtle, no tension, not forced. Shaitilya. It's like here he says make it smooth. Another example or definition of shaitilya is fragile, soft. You want to make your postures soft, subtle, not forced. So when you're practicing, the effort needs to be soft and not forced. Ananta means breath. Some books will translate ananta as serpent. Serpent is it's another way to interpret that word, but here, if you study yoga, you know that serpents have nothing to do with your postures. So it has nothing to do with postures. It's breath. Ana means breath. Remember the meditation I taught you guys, the anapana meditation with meditate on the tip of the nose, the rings of the nostrils, right? So let's see. Oops, what's going on here? Okay. Yeah, so ana means breath, ananta means breath. Samapatibhyam means to keep your attention on it. To keep your attention on your breath. So when practicing, your effort should be soft and your attention should remain on your breath. This is a unique way of interpreting this sutra, because if you look at your other books, I've only seen like maybe 2 or 3 books of all the sutra books I've ever seen interpret this sutra this way. So let's take a look at this. Why? Let's take the blur off. Okay, this one, Patanjala Yoga Sutra from Swami Satchitananda. So let's take a look at what he says. This is one of the better books. 47, prayatna, preserving continued effort, natural tendency for restlessness. Shaitilya, by lessening or relaxing. Ananta, infinite, unending, eternal. Oh yeah, that's another definition. Samapati, meditate on. That's a similar. Meditate on or keep your attention on. And Byam means both here, the grammatical ending. Because the sense is by lessening, so this is the translation here. This is the translation.
Progress.
By lessening, this is by lessening the natural tendency for restlessness and by meditating on infinite, posture is mastered. What the craziness is that? What? By lessening the natural tendency for restlessness and by meditating on the infinite, posture is mastered. Same sutra, completely different interpretations. By lessening the natural tendency for restlessness. Okay, sorry, not buying it. Let's look at that one. What does that one say? Chapter 2, 32, 33, 430, okay, 45, 45, meditate on the deeply on Ishvara and attain samadhi. Okay, focus your attention on being totally relaxed. So when you're practicing yoga postures, you need to focus your attention on being relaxed. I don't buy that. I don't buy that either. Again, sutras are written in threes. Remember, the first is usually the theory, like the Samadhi Pada. The first chapter in this book is the theory of yoga, Samadhi Pada, the chapter on Samadhi. The second chapter is called Sadhana Pada. Sadhana means practice. Sutras are written by theory, practice, and results. This is the second sutra on the practice of asanas. This should be very clear on how we practice asanas. Effort should be relaxed. You don't force yourself into postures, and you should concentrate on your breathing during the postures. Makes total sense to me. Yeah, focus your attention on being totally relaxed. Yeah, that's just lost in translation. Let's look at this one. The Yoga of Discipline. This is a good one. She's Barbara Stoller Miller is I think she's a very good Sanskrit scholar. Okay, let's look at this. Posture, 47. Okay, 47 here. 47 right there. The posture of yoga is steady and easy. Okay, stira sukham, easy. It needs to be meant as sukha. Sukha means, does it mean easy? No, it doesn't mean easy, but all right, let's accept that. 47, it is realized by relaxing one's effort and resting like the cosmic serpent on the waters of infinity. Relaxing one's effort, yes. Relaxing one's effort. Resting like the cosmic serpent on the waters of infinity? No. You guys have any different versions that you want to share? Okay, let's hear what Pandit Ji has to say. I'm so critical. Let's hear it.
Perfection in asana is attained by loosening of tension caused by effort and by mental absorption in the infinite.
See, it's a little different. They have a different take on it. This is coming from Krishnamacharya, the grandfather of modern yoga, what I just shared with you today. He also breaks down the word prayatna. All other books, none of these books mention breath, did it? Did any of these other books mention breath? This book did not mention breath. This one didn't mention breath. This one didn't mention breath either. Again, I've read only about less than a handful of books that mention breath. Krishnamacharya translates this word prayatna, the first word in the sutra, prayatna, as effort of prana. Prayatna. Pra comes from the word prana. Prana is breath or energy, right? So prayatna means the effort of life. The effort of life. What is the effort of life? breath. So he's saying that that your breath should be made smooth, as in ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi breathing, or even softer, silent breathing. There should not be any grunting, right? There should not be breath holding unless otherwise specified. The default position of the breath is steady breathing. And ananta means, ananta again means the breath. So it's the effort of the breath, and the focus should be on the breath. The attention should be on the breath. Some people will say that ananta means the serpent, or infinite, infinity or serpent. And so they're saying, I've seen read books that says, contemplate infinity when you're doing asanas.
That's what this one says, I think. Postures is then when effort ceases and meditation on infinity occurs.
Yes, that is a result, not a practice. Because right now we're on the second sutra. The second sutra is specifically on practice. The result of whenever you achieve the state of sthira sukhamasana, or comfort and steadiness in your posture, and you meditate and your mind becomes still, then you will start to experience this idea of infinite expansiveness, forever going. But that doesn't happen when you're suffering in revolving triangle, right? I'm not contemplating the nature of existence when I'm, doing, handstand lotus, for example, or I'm in handstand scorpion trying to put my foot on my head. I'm not contemplating that. I'm just thinking about balancing, breathing, and putting my foot on my head, or whatever it is. So I think some of these interpretations are they're stretching it a little bit. They're reaching. So in our book, it says, the note in this is, Krishnamacharya interprets the sutra differently than other teachers. He gives a correct technical meaning in this context of prayatna, or jivana prayatna, the effort of life, which is breath. He says it is the breath that should be made smooth and effortless, not necessarily the posture. It is not physical, it's the breath. Okay. So you're going to see different interpretations. I'm just giving you the one that I learned, and I more or less, through my own practice, realize that it's more accurate than the other ones. Lessening the tendency for restlessness. That's interesting. Lessening the tendency. The tendency for restlessness is Rajoguna, and they don't even mention Rajoguna in this sutra. So I don't know where he got that. Okay, so moving to number 48. 48 is the third sutra on asanas. So therefore it is the results, the fruits of effort. What happens if you master asanas? By the mastery of asanas, tata, by the masteries of asanas, dvandava is like the word dual, or dvi means two. Dvandava means pair of opposites, dualities of life, the dualities. Ana bigataha. Ana bigataha is not overpowered. So you don't become, so in other words, as a result of mastering asanas, not one, but many, mastering many asanas, you will not be overpowered by opposites. In other words, you will be less affected by opposites. What are the opposites in life? What are examples of opposites in life?
Happy and sad.
Happy and sad.
Cold and warm.
Cold and hot. Yep.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Yep.
Happy, angry.
Happy and angry. What else? Success and failure. It's a big one. Success and failure. Or about victory and defeat, same thing. How about praise and criticism? Praise and criticism. And hot and cold, right? This physical body right here that I am in can withstand extreme heat and extreme cold. I can do it.
Mm.
This body and this mind can be the same when I lose my wallet and when I have my wallet. Have you ever lost your wallet?
Mhm.
Freak out, right? I know, I've done it. Freak out. Oh my God, who stole it? Immediately, who stole it? You know, someone stole it. You go immediately. I mean, I've experienced this. I'm talking from experience, right? Where did I leave it? Oh, someone stole it. Someone took it. Someone took it out of my bag. Oh, and then you find out it's like on your bathroom counter. But the mind does really funny things. So in other words, the more asanas you practice, the more asanas you master, the greater threshold you build. You build a greater threshold for tolerance, ultimately, is what this is saying. You build tolerance for both ends of the spectrum. You can be the same in victory and defeat. We first see this happening on the yoga mat. One day, the first day that you get crow pose, you're undoubtedly ecstatic, right? Or whatever pose that you've been working on. I remember this girl, one of my students, she got headstand for the first time in one of my classes. She'd been practicing with me for 2 weeks. This was in 2011, I think, when I first opened my studio. She'd come in out of nowhere. 2 weeks later, she does headstand in the middle of the room, and then she cries hard, almost like an ugly cry. Not really ugly, but it wasn't pretty. And I was like, "Are you okay? What's the matter? Did you hurt yourself?" I'm like, "Shit, I'm feeling responsible for making her cry." And she goes, "I've been working on headstand for 11 years." 11 years. And then she gets it. She gets this ecstatic, cries. And then, I don't know, imagine the same student the next day, unable to do headstand. How do you think she's going to feel?
Frustrated?
Frustrated, sad, but probably equal to the amount of elation she had when she got it. And then after a while, you get it and you don't get it, you're the same. You're the same whether you get headstand or not. Some days you get it. So some days you can, some days you can't. Crow pose, for example. That happens all the time. I see it all the time. People get so mad when they can't get crow pose. I did it yesterday. Oh, I feel so defeated. They're still new to asana practice, or at least mastery, right? What does mastery mean? Mastery means that you're able to stay in a posture comfortably for a long period of time. Okay. So long holds in postures are more beneficial than short holds. Short holds or no holds can give you cardio, but that's not yoga. It's cardio. Yoga is not cardio. Ramaswamy made it very clear. He goes, this is not cardiovascular, but you can get some cardiovascular benefit from it. He says, and then someone was like, well, is it aerobic or anaerobic? He goes well, if you do it according to Patanjali, deep breathing, steady breath, under the parameters of vinyasa, krama, or ashtanga yoga, then it's aerobic. It's fully aerobic. You're constantly feeding your muscles with oxygen, with prana. I did a practice today, and we had a new guy. It was at my house. A friend of a friend came, and I was holding postures, 5 breaths, 5 long breaths. The guy never took a deep breath in any of the postures. Not one deep breath. And he was wearing out. He was struggling, because what happens when you hold your breath, your energy level drops fast. It's like short circuiting a 9-volt battery where you get the 2 ends. You start losing your bars. Your phone, you've got the bars, your energy bars, it just dies. But if you start pumping the air, you start to maintain a level of energy. Okay. So those are the three sutras on asanas. I want to spend a little bit of time on that because they're very important for us to know, to understand. And then once you understand them, then you can teach them in different words, right? And you can incorporate into the teaching. So what is the theory of postures? The theory is that you should be able to hold for a long time without hurting yourself. That's it. You should be able to hold a pose for a long time without hurting yourself. The second sutra is on practice. How should you practice your postures? You should focus on your breath and you should not struggle. You should focus on your breath and you should not struggle. No pain, no pain. What happens when you get pain in a yoga posture? What's the first thing that happens? Right? Your breath changes. It goes from smooth to ow, ah. You make the sound changes. So you keep the breath going at a very steady, smooth rate. And you focus on it. Okay, and then the third one, is that you build this immense threshold for tolerance between opposites in life. You build tolerance by the mastery of yoga postures. All right, those are the three. The tolerance is not just physical. The tolerance is threefold: physical, mental, and emotional. You develop physical tolerance, mental tolerance, and emotional tolerance. You can build emotional intelligence through the practice of yoga asanas. What does emotional intelligence mean? Being able to identify and regulate your emotions. Identify and regulate. Right? Identify and regulate. Okay, more or less. So that's this section on asanas. The next section is on the fourth limb of Ashtanga Yoga, which is pranayama. Pranayama is the next limb, fourth limb. 49th Sutra. So tasmin as in what? As in the asanas. Sati means remaining in asanas, right? Now you've mastered asanas to a degree you can stay in it for a while. While remaining in an asana, particularly a seated position, svasa means inhalation, prasvasa means exhalation. Yo refers to both words. It's a dual meaning, and or of the inhalation, of the exhalation. Gati refers to the movement of the inhalation and exhalation. Vicheda, V means various, different, special. Cheda means breaking the movements. You're breaking up the movements of it, is called pranayama. Nowadays, what do they call it? What's the catchphrase nowadays? Breath work. That you are regulating the movement of the breath in various ways. That's called pranayama. Pranayama is sort of like the big picture, right? It encompasses all the movements of the breath. So this sutra is saying, so the word vicheda, it means controlling and stopping. Vicheda means controlling and stopping. The sutra here says that one must remain in an asana to perform pranayama. So for yogic pranayama, according to Patanjali, you need to be in an asana. So some people say that means to be seated. Now, if you're going to like a serious yoga teacher or guru, I would imagine, based on my experience, that they're not going to teach you pranayama laying down. Pranayama is not taught laying down. It's taught seated. You don't get to practice pranayama until you're able to sit comfortably. But nowadays, with breath work, how do they teach you? Laying down. Get in a supported position and do the breath work. Now, why do you think the ancient yogis preferred that you stay seated, that you learn to sit before you do pranayama?
Because you can focus more on the breath.
You can focus more. You can focus the breath when you're laying down.
It's easier to fall asleep.
It is easier to fall asleep laying down. Yeah.
Because it's more, it's uncomfortable
What is uncomfortable?
when you're in a seated posture.
But it shouldn't be uncomfortable. You got to find comfort in your postures first before you practice pranayama. That's why Batabi Joyce didn't teach the pranayama sequence until people were proficient in second series. Did you know that? You had to be invited. It was invitation only to learn pranayama with Batabi Joyce back in the day. Not many people learn pranayama directly from Batabi Joyce because you had to have purified your nadis. You have to strengthen your nadis and purified your nadis. That's why second series is called Nadi Shodhana. It's purification of the nadis, cleansing of the nadis. In other words, when you practice a very powerful pranayama, your system has to be able to withstand the current. If your nadis, the nadis are like wires, right? If your electrical system is made up of a bunch of flimsy wires, your body won't be able to handle the prana. Does that make sense? And what happens when you can't handle the prana? Your nervous system freaks out. You see it all the time nowadays. People trying to do too much. They do too much in their asanas. They do too much in their pranayama. I'm sorry?
In your opinion, or from what you know, what's the purpose of primary series?
Healing.
Healing.
Yeah, yoga chikitsa means yoga therapy. Primary series is known as yoga chikitsa. Did you know that?
Nope.
Yeah, it's called yoga chikitsa. The Sanskrit name for the different series.
I do feel about the healing in primary series.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
healing.
why I like it so much.
Sorry?
And I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, but the primary series has nothing to do with Ashtanga, Patanjali's Ashtanga. Has nothing. The asana sequence has nothing to do with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Anyway, that's another story. But the series here, the first series, elementary series, is called Yoga Chikitsa. It's for healing the spine and opening the hips, preparing one to sit properly. And first and second series was never meant to be practiced. Not say meant to be. First and second series were taught together. It was taught as one. Nowadays it's separated, but first and second should go together because first is all a bunch of forward bends and second is a bunch of back bends. And so if you do first and second, you can sit like a yogi for a very long time. But if you do first series and you don't build the strength in your extension of your spine, then you're going to slouch a lot. You get into Padmasana or seated posture, cross-legged, you sit, you're going to start slouching forward. But if you extend the spine, through a series of back bends or back strengthening, heart opening, you can stay seated. So the first series is designed to heal the body, begin the healing process. Second series furthers the healing process and helps prepare the body to sit cross-legged. Fit to sit. You're fit to sit for a long period of time, so you can do the pranayama. So pranayama is regulation of the movement of the breath in the different ways. And there's so many ways to cut up the breath, right? You got your right nostril, left nostril, you got inhalation, exhalation, you got retentions, you got your mouth, inhale through the mouth, exhale through the mouth, the different things. So the word pranayama, let's take a look at that real quick. It's not prana. We've seen the word yama before, right? Yama, Y-A-M-A, yama. What does yama mean? Yama. It's the yamas and niyamas. What does yama mean?
Does it mean life?
No. Yama. What does yama mean? Yama means restraint, right? So yamas are like your social restraints. It's like, I'm going to restrain my behavior. I'm not going to hurt others. I'm not going to tell lies. I'm not going to steal, right? Yamas means restraint or control. Like, in jujitsu or wrestling or policing, they restrain you. What do they restrain? What do they do when they restrain you? They hold you down. They keep you under control. Like, if you get manhandled by a police officer, what does that look like? They usually take your arm and put it behind your back and put you against the car, right? And then you're unable to move. You're being restrained. You're controlled. Yama means to restrain or control, right? Yama means to restrain or control. So here, pranayama, prana refers to the energy or breath, life energy or breath particularly. Pranayama, to control the prana. Pranayama. But that's not 100% correct, because the word is actually pranayama. It's pranayama. So if you look at the word, it's P-R-A-A-N-A, prana, and ayama. So the word together is pranayama. It's P-R-A-A-N-A-A-Y-A-M-A, pranayama. So what is the opposite of yama? If yama means restraint or control, what does ayama mean? What is the opposite of restraining or controlling? Expanding.
Expanding.
Expanding. So word pranayama means expansion of the breath. That's the true meaning of the word. Pranayama means expansion of the breath. Because most people breathe shallowly. Shallowly. Pranayama means expansion of the breath, but it also means controlling of the breath in the sutra, right? Vicheda, V-I-C-C-H-E-D-A-H, vicheda. It means the controlling or stopping. But the word pranayama means expansion. So within the practice of expanding the breath, you're also controlling it. All right? Pranayama. So that's the first sutra. Second sutra here on pranayama, number 50. Bahya, what does bahya mean? Bahya means external, or when the breath is outside the body. Abhyantara means when the breath is inside the body. So it's exhalation and inhalation. Bahya, abhyantara. Stamba, what is stamba? Stamba means hold or stop, stationary, not moving. Vritti means action or activities. So there are three activities of the breath. One is exhalation, one is inhalation, and one is stopping. So those are the three activities of the breath. Then the next three here is where to control the breath. Desha means the place. Kala means the time. And Sankhya, we've talked about the word Sankhya. Sankhya means numbers or counting. So you want to count the breaths. And paridrishta, pari means around, drishta means to watch. So Drishta can be, as you can say, it means concentration or total concentration on the breath. Dirga means long. Shukshma means subtle or fine. Shukshma means subtle. Shukshma means subtle or smooth. So these are the parameters. He's listing here parameters for pranayama. How many parameters are there? There are 9 parameters. What are the 9 parameters? Exhalation, inhalation, retention, place. For example, is the breath in the nose? Is it in the throat? Is it in the tongue? Is it in the bandhas? Is it in the chakras? Where is the breath? Right? It's usually up here. And then kala, how long? How long am I doing it? How many rounds? How many rounds? What is the ratio of my breath? What is the ratio? Am I breathing in more than I'm breathing out? More means duration, right? Am I breathing out more than I'm breathing in? Duration, right? It has a ratio. And of course, you got to count it. You got to count your pranayamas. Pranayama is supposed to be done with total concentration. Pranayama should be done with total concentration. And then the breath again should be long and smooth. Now, that's not always true because there are some pranayamas that are short, like Bhastrika, right? Short breaths. And then there's also a very subtle form of, there are many subtle forms, but the one I'm thinking of, didn't I show you guys the Kapalabhati where you can't see the feel, it's just almost as if your breath is kind of doing this? Like even more subtle than that. Yeah. So there are some pranayamas with short. Let's see. So for a beginner, the first practice is exhalation, should be brought under control. The second level is inhalations should be brought under control. Then finally, the retentions should be brought under control. Does that make sense? A new student should learn to exhale. Don't worry about inhalation. Inhalations will happen on their own if you exhale all the way. Right? Then after you've gotten your exhalations under control, you should work on controlling inhalations. Inhalations and exhalations should be done consciously. What do I say in all my classes? When you breathe in, you should know you're breathing in. When you breathe out, you should know you're breathing out, right? And then it's only during vinyasa krama or advanced teachings where you actually tell them to hold the breath. You guys have experienced that in my vinyasa krama sections. But and then of course, the retentions. Okay. And of course, retention should always be done with bandhas. Okay. Right, moving on. So that was the second sutra of pranayama. Third sutra of pranayama is bahya, exhalation, abhyantara, inhalation, vishaya, the object referring to the breath, akshepi, not entertained or not observed, chatura, the fourth aspect. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So earlier he mentions the 3 aspects: inhalation, exhalation, and hold. Here he's saying the 4th aspect is the suspension of the breath after the exhalation, but before the start of the inhalation. Okay. In other words, exhale, hold. Bahya, this is also known as bahya kumbhaka. You can write that down. Bahya kumbhaka. Bahya means exhale, outward, the breath is out. And kumbhaka, I'll spell it for you, I'll do it in the chat. Okay, Bahya. Bahya. Kumbhaka. Exhale. Hold. Now, yes. Yes. The exhale hold is not mentioned in Vedic texts. So again, this Yoga Sutra is supposed to be from the Vedas, but it's sort of it's compiled mostly from the Vedas, but this is clearly from the Hatha Yoga text because exhale retentions are not mentioned in Vedic texts. Another interpretation of this sutra is the fourth aspect of pranayama is not necessarily exhale hold. It's known as, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it's known as Kavela Kumbhaka. I'm going to put that in here. From Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Kavala Kumbhaka, or freedom or liberated hold. So so there's this idea where your breath is guided by an impulse. At any given moment, you have an impulse to breathe in or breathe out. Would you agree? At any given moment, your impulse to take air in or impulse to push air out. If you hold it long enough, the impulse becomes greater and greater and greater, right? If I hold my breath in, I'm going to eventually have that impulse to breathe out is going to overpower my retention and I'm going to blow out. Likewise, if I exhale and hold, the impulse to breathe in will eventually overpower my own trying to stop that impulse. Yeah, you with me? As long as I'm alive, there's an impulse to breathe in and an impulse to breathe out. This fourth aspect is sometimes referred to as no impulse to breathe in or no impulse to breathe out. I think I might have taught you guys this before. Have I? Have we explored this sensation?
I don't remember.
Andrea says yes.
Oh.
Valerie says no. Paul, do you remember practicing this? Yes. Do we do it in privates or do we do this in class? Privates. So it happens. Andrea, do we do this in private or in class?
No, we did it in class. It was, and if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, it was like we did a certain pranayama and then we noticed that there's no impulse to breathe in or out
Correct.
for a period of time after that.
Correct. Yeah. So I do remember teaching in class. So we did a pranayama sequence and then we stopped. And if you did it right, If you did it right and the nervous system, everything, all the conditions were met, then there will be no impulse to breathe in or breathe out.
Right.
And then that's called Kavela Kumbhaka, where you're not holding the breath. There's just no impulse, right? Because usually you breathe in, you hold your breath, you're stopping the impulse from breathing out. If you exhale and hold, then you're stopping the impulse from breathing in, right? Whereas with Kavela Kumbhaka, or the fourth aspect of pranayama, is there's no impulse to breathe in or out. In other words, the external barometric pressure is equal to the pressure inside your lungs. There's no change in pressure between the internal and external environment of the body. The diaphragm is relaxed and there's no need to breathe. And in those moments, the mind is completely calm until the impulse to breathe comes back, right? So this is another take on this particular sutra. So it can mean that the breath is retained out, or once the breath is out, there's really no impulse to take it back in for some time. This is the fourth aspect to pranayama. Okay. Any questions? You know, I think the cool thing about this text is that almost every single sutra in here can be experienced. Like a lot of it's theoretical, but if you do the practice, you'll experience it. Like David Williams says, the practice of yoga, the theory of yoga is, before the practice of yoga, the theory is useless. You can study all this, but if you don't do the practice, it doesn't mean crap. Sorry. But if you do the practice of yoga, after the practice of the yoga, the theory is obvious. You do the practice and then you read this, you're like, oh yes, I get it. I get it. So it's one of those things that you really have to show up and do the practice. One of our students stopped attending class. Now, I'm not going to name any names, but one of our students stopped attending. And I texted with them today, and they're not coming this weekend. They gave up on the training. And one of the reasons why they gave up is because they couldn't let go of their old paradigm, because of what was being taught now doesn't match with the way they saw the world previously. Does that make sense? So they stopped coming because they didn't think this was going to help them, because it didn't match their old paradigm. This is supposed to free you from your old paradigm. But the thing is it didn't work because there was no practice. The theory is useless without practice. That's why before the practice of yoga, the theory is useless. But after the practice of yoga, the theory is obvious. So one of the things I find that when teaching this, if a student doesn't practice, it's just theoretical. It's like learning math, learning math formulas. It's whether you're getting, the only math I do is balancing a checkbook or whatever, right? I'll never do trigonometry in my life. That doesn't mean anything to me unless you become like, a rocket scientist. But here, same idea here. This stuff isn't going to change your life unless it's being put into practice. Okay, 52. Tata, from the practice of pranayama, kshyate. Kshyate means to slowly destroy, to slowly reduce, like boiling water. Eventually the water, goes away and then it's gone. Kshyate. Prakash, avaranam. Prakasha refers to clarity or light. Avaranam is the veil. So by the practice of pranayama, the veil of delusion or illusion is slowly removed. What is the veil of illusion? It's tamas. Avaranam refers to tamas. What is tamas? What are the qualities of tamas?
Heaviness, slowness.
Heaviness and slowness, confusion, ignorance,
dullness.
Yep. So by the practice of pranayama, those things are removed. And what is prakash? Prakash refers to sattva, clarity. So clarity increases as tamas decreases. Slowly. It doesn't happen fast. It's a slow, it's like boiling water. It's slowly removed. By the practice of pranayama, the veil of tamas, which covers the clarity of the mind, is removed. So what's interesting is that, you know, meditation is what do you call it? There's a high failure rate in meditation, right? There's a high failure rate. So success rate, I wrote this down, success rate for most people who meditate without proper preparation is low. Asana plus pranayama equals success. Because you're not going to meditate if you're tamasic. Your mind is going to fall asleep. You're not going to meditate if your body is in pain or you can't sit still. But then there's an argument. What about moving meditation? Well, the Chinese, they have this thing called moving meditation. They do sitting and laying. But their version of meditation is different. They define meditation differently. They say that you can meditate by washing dishes, but that's not what Patanjali is calling meditation. Patanjali, as you know, says meditation is one thought or no thoughts. Okay. 53. Dharana means, it's the dharana here is actually the next. It's interesting. He's using the word dharana, but it's that dharana is like the first stage of meditation. But he says dharana, dharana support. Dharana means to hold. Dharana means to hold. Dharana, you see this word as well in Jalandhar Bandha. You ever heard of Jalandhar Bandha?
Mm-hmm.
Jala means water. Jala means water. Dhara means to hold. So to hold your throat, chin lock. Jalandhar Bandha. So Dhara means to hold or support. So here Dharanasu, plural, cha and yogyata, fitness, manasa refers to the mind. So in other words, pranayama makes the mind fit for concentration or supporting any idea or contemplation. If you cannot concentrate, then you need to do pranayama. It'll make your mind more fit. There's I have this medal. It's one of my friends who's a 7th degree black belt in karate. He went, when I met him, he was only a 3rd degree. And he was like, man, I've been going to these tournaments every year and I can't even place. And so I taught him, and that's when I started teaching him yoga. And he had to learn these forms. And he went one day. He goes, he calls me. He goes, "Hey man, I'm about to do my forms, and I'm freaking out. My mind's all over the place. I'm freaking out." He goes, what can I do? Can you help me? I was like, "Can you go somewhere where there's nobody around?" I was like, "Yeah." So he walks out to the back, and I guided him through some pranayama over the phone. An alternate nostril pranayama. Inhale, exhale twice as long. Inhale. Did that for 3 to 5 minutes, and then he went and did his forms. And he won. He got a medal. He didn't win. He got bronze. He got a bronze. It was a big ass medal, and he gave it to me. He goes, "I got this because the breathing exercise you taught me before going in." So, and in that performance, he had to concentrate. His mind was like, he couldn't concentrate. So I taught him pranayama, so he was able to concentrate. Nowadays, they teach pranayama to college students, and they're seeing test scores improve. So they're taking it straight from the book. Help students concentrate, do pranayama. But yeah, he gave me that medal, and I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is. Let's look at this word yogyata, fitness. The mind is only fit when tamas and rajas are removed. A mind full of rajas is unfit, and a mind full of tamas is unfit. Because a mind full of rajas is going to be all over the place. So that's what was happening with my friend, is his mind is all over the place. And then whenever tamas comes in to the mind, then you have doubt. Doubt. So rajas is greed, tamas is doubt and fear. So if these things are in your mind, you're experiencing fear, doubt, rage, jealousy, and attachment. Does that make sense? Only when these things are removed, you can have a fit mind. All right, so this is what, 53, 52, 51, that's 3, 50 is 4, and 49 is 5. So far we've gone through 5 sutras on pranayama. And how many were there on asanas? 3. So which one's more important according to Patanjali? Pranayama or asanas?
Pranayama.
Pranayama.
Pranayama, clearly. He's spending more time on pranayama than he is on asanas. And we're not even done with pranayama yet, right? So 54, what is 54? Okay, so there are 5. The 54 is on pratyahara. So there are 5 verses on pranayama, 3 verses on asanas. So pranayama gets the win. Pranayama gets the win. So 54. Oh, what time is it? We have 15 minutes.
8:15. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I think we can finish this chapter. Okay, let's go. All right, so pratyahara. So sva vishaya. Sva means one's own or its own here. Vishaya, it means object. We see this word all the time. Asampragyogehe. Asampragyogehe, not connecting. Yoga means connecting. Asamprayogehe means not connecting. Chittasya refers to the mind. Svarupe means one's own form or nature. Anukara, it says likewise. Anu means consistent with, kara means action, so consistent with the actions or likewise. Eva, as if. Indriyanam, indriya means, indriya, it says in our book, it says it means senses. It means organs. It means organs. Indriyana means organs. They can be sense organs or organs of actions or organs of reproduction or organs of digestion, but indriya means organs, not senses. Jnana indriya means organ or senses. Anyways, you want to make that clear. This is a misprint. And then pratyahara refers to the process of restraining the senses. So, in other words, whenever there's an object, what's an object? I'm the subject, right? You're the subject. I am the subject. The object is outside of me. I am, okay, right? So this is an object. Object, subject, object. Okay. So the object, I experience the object through my jnana indriyas or my sense organs. Right? I know that this object is here because I'm touching it with my skin. I can smell it with my smelling capacity. I can see the light bouncing with my eyeballs. So so the senses connect me to the world outside of me. Pratyahara is disconnecting the senses between me and the external world. So what is pratyahara? Pratyahara means restraint of the senses. It means going inward. It means going inward. When the senses are restrained or withdrawn from connecting to their respective objects, the senses then appear to be like the mind itself and are indistinguishable from it. This is called pratyahara. You know, it's a stage that happens before meditation. When we're practicing asanas, we're very in our bodies and into the floor, right? The ground, because that's what we're touching, the floor, or if we're using a wall, we're still really connected to the senses and the space around us. But when we do pranayama, we close our eyes, we get so concentrated, so with what's happening inside our bodies, that we start to lose this connection with the senses. Then when we stop, we either do shavasana. There are two ways to do pratyahara in yoga. Two ways. One is shavasana, because at some point we start losing the senses. Like, for example, like the moment you fall asleep, you kind of hear what's around you, but you don't really, and then you stay long enough, then you lose all connection with that around you, right? That's pratyahara, when you lose connection with the things around you. The second way to do pratyahara is shanmukhi mudra. What is shanmukhi mudra? It's this. You ever see a yogi do this? Yeah? Has anyone not seen that? Okay. Let's share a screen. Oh, can you make me a host, Andrea? I am now host. Okay. Shanmukhi mudra. Images. Share screen. Bada bing, bada boom. You guys seen this? Shanmukhi mudra. What's going on here? There. See this? They cover their eyes. We've done this in the training, right? Yeah. And if you do this before meditation, it really helps. Sit in lotus or sit in posture, cover the eyes, cover the nose, cover the mouth. Here's BKS Iyengar doing Shanmukhi mudra. So with the thumbs, you close your ears, and then the fingers, you close the holes in the front of your face. So,
Question, okay. When you're doing that, you do not breathe.
you have to leave it open. It's more symbolic.
Okay.
It's more really for the eyes and ears than anything, because it's symbolic, because your pinky's near your mouth, but you're not really closing your mouth.
Okay, that's why I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, you're not really closing your. Some people will do it, but you're gonna have to breathe at some point. That the impulse to breathe is gonna come. And you hold it for like 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, and it's really, really intense and hard. It's really hard. Your shoulders start to burn. Yes?
I've heard yoga teachers suggest that pratyahara can occur when you're in an asana. And what you're saying, that doesn't happen, right?
No.
Okay.
It happens when you're in shavasana, or when you gotta have your eyes closed and ears plugged.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what they're saying, like, what are they saying? You can get pratyahara in an asana? Like, which asana?
Yeah.
How about
I think I've heard it in chair, right? Like, you're in chair and you can, like, instead of worrying about your thighs burning or your whatever the hell's going on with your body, right? That you go inward.
how about yin posture?
A yin posture? If you fall asleep
Yeah.
in it. Have you ever fallen asleep in a yin posture?
Not falling
Yeah.
asleep, but being inward.
Yeah, but do you still feel your body?
I don't know.
Yeah, no. Do you still feel your body when you're in the yin posture?
Mhm.
The idea, I guess, when you're doing this, you still feel your body, but shavasana is probably the best way to experience pratyahara. Shavasana.
And when you are in a nidra, yoga nidra,
Yeah.
you are in that.
Well,
No?
it depends. It depends on if you're able to get to the yoga nidra state. Just because you're practicing yoga nidra doesn't mean you're experiencing yoga nidra.
Right. But when
Right.
you're in the state, it's the same. It's that,
Yes,
right?
when you're in the
Okay.
state, when you're in the state of yoga nidra,
Okay.
you've gotten past pratyahara. You've gotten way
Okay.
past pratyahara.
Okay.
Pratyahara is that stage pratyahara is the stage between the external practices and the internal practices.
Okay.
So if you're still feeling through the senses, you're not in pratyahara yet.
Okay.
Thanks.
Like if I can feel the floor below me with my feet, I'm not in pratyahara.
Okay. Yeah.
If I can still see things with my eyes, I'm not in pratyahara. Remember, you got to disconnect. It says here, asamprayogehe means disconnect. You're disconnected from your senses. If you're still able to experience an object outside of you, right? Like a yoga mat or a book or the sound, if you can hear something, you're not in pratyahara.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So all the senses need a disconnect for you to be in pratyahara. So once that happens, then the next 3 levels of the next 3 stages, I think that's the last one. Okay, no, one more. 55 is tata, out of the practice of pranayama. Parama means superior. Parama means superior. Vasyate, subjugated, indriyanam, the senses. In other words, through the practice of pratyahara, you master your senses. You master your senses. In that event, the complete subjugation of the senses to the superior mind takes place. Your mind is now in control of your senses, as opposed to someone who does not have control of their senses. Who does not have control of their senses? Addicts. Addicts have no control of their senses. They see something shiny, they're going to go for it. They smell something good, they're going to go for it. They hear something good, they're going to go for it. Does that make sense? They taste something good, they're going to go for it. Addicts are constantly trying to please the senses. The senses are pulling them in all the directions. Addiction. No control of the senses. Oh, I got to smoke a cigarette. I got to smoke. I can't stop smoking. Whatever it is, right? You're addicted. The senses are ruling you. But when you practice pratyahara, you subjugate the senses. The mind becomes superior, not the senses. Before that, the senses are superior. Does that make sense?
Would you say that most of us, at some level, are dictated by our senses?
Most people, 99%.
Yeah. Okay.
99%. I don't know. That's a big number. I would say 97%. 97%. There are the 3%ers. There are the 3%ers, right? The overachievers, the crazy ones who change the world. No, no, I'm just kidding. I'm playing. But there are some who can control their senses, and those are usually, yogis. Not necessarily yogis in this sense, but yogis. Remember, there are 3 levels of yogis. There's the part-time yogi. There's the full-time yogi, and then there's the natural-born yogi. The natural-born yogi doesn't have to do anything. They have all these skills already. They must have been a yogi in a past life. They're the triple threats: the actors, the models, the singers, right? The dancers, the ones who can do all of them. So now, yogi, at this point now the yogi is ready for meditation. A yogi who doesn't have their senses under their control has no business meditating. Because a mind unfit to concentrate is unfit for any path. But if you've gotten to this point in your practice where you can concentrate, you can control your senses, you're ready for meditation. With that said, we will conclude this chapter. That is the last one, end of chapter 2. Next time we meet, I'll let you know when, or we'll figure out when we can meet next. So chapter 3, Sutra 1 is where we are going to start next time.
Hey, Ricky.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So someone in addiction, you think they should not even try to meditate?
According to it now, every student gets different advice. If you have a particular student, introduce them to me and I'll tell them whether I think they should meditate or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I can't just say, no, all students who are addicts shouldn't meditate. That's ridiculous. But there are some people who shouldn't meditate. They should be doing preparatory work. They need to get their breath under their control. Because what happens is they're just going to witness their crazy mind, and then they're going to believe their mind to be telling them the truth. And then their mind's going to talk them out of whatever was right to begin with. Right? Oh, no, this theory doesn't work for me. I'm done. I'm out, because their mind is so powerful and convincing. They can't control it yet. So yeah, no, I think some people shouldn't be meditating. Depends on their level of addiction. But it could be they're an addict, but they're not a yogi. They might not have any samskaras for being a yogi or concentrating. But there are some people who have a samskara for meditation and happen to become addicts. But a true teacher would know, because they would assess their temperaments, capacity, and interests. Everyone has different temperaments, capacities, and interests. So I can't say that what advice for one person is going to be same for another, because there are different levels of addictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have somebody in mind that you think should be meditating or shouldn't be meditating that is meditating?
No, it's just a general question.
Yeah. Then you get a general answer. It depends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But good question. Keep them coming. The answer to most of your questions is it depends. The answer to most questions is it depends. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, it's 8:29. Thank you for listening and playing along. We'll continue probably. I'll send a text message and see who can, maybe next Wednesday or something like that. Are you guys okay with next Wednesday?
Yes.
Let me take a look at my calendar. No, I can't. I gotta take my daughter to this thing. I have the 20th, which is the following, and then we'll just go with that, and then we'll have to pick a date either at the end of September or in October. I'm starting another Sutra course through another school next Tuesday. I'm only giving 9 hours. You guys are getting 20 something hours, I think. Whereas this other school is only going to get 9. Okay, cool. No other questions, yes?
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's close off with the sutra. I'm sorry, the oneness and the Patanjali mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejas Vina Vadhi Tamastuma Vidvisha Vahai Om Shanti 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 Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakhena Yopakarotam Pravaramuni Nam Patanjalim Pranjali Ranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakra Siddharinam Sahasra Shirasham Shwetam Pranamami Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Om. Thank you.
Thank
See you next
you.
time.
Thank
or this
you.
See you
weekend.
Saturday.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.